In the 1950s, this woman was the most prominent and talked about sex symbol of the United States. At that time, this type was in fashion. And if someone is the center of attention of the majority, then he will definitely begin to attract the powerful of the powerful men on our planet. After all, they want to assert themselves and acquire the best. A woman with beauty, vocal and acting talents became a barter chip in the grandiose game of the richest and most influential. And this is exactly what its 10 secrets are connected with, some of which have not yet been revealed. What are these mysteries? Marilyn Monroe lived during the years when conspiracy theories, the Soviet space program and the fear of nuclear war fed the minds of some Americans, to say the least. Of course, the hysteria associated with, well, this flourished a decade later, the year Marilyn died. So let's dive deeper into this topic, the topic of secrets of Marilyn Monroe. Secret Chronicles here. We continue our episode. The real name of the actress, the mystery of the terminal pseudonym. The baby, born in June of 1926, did not know her real father. Only as an adult did she find out that he was a certain Charles Stanley Gifford, who outlived her by 3 years. She was dubbed Norma Jean, and the surname Mortensen comes from her mother's second husband. Before that, film editor Gladys Pearl Baker had already given birth to 2 children from her first husband, whom she married at the age of 15. None of the husbands could or wanted to stay. With age, Gladys became more schizophrenic, so in the end she was left a single mother with 3 children in her arms and a terrible diagnosis in her medical record. And Norma Jean was later assigned the surname of her first husband, namely Baker. You might ask, why this combination of Marilyn Monroe? Where does Marilyn Monroe come from in the first place? The world-famous pseudonym of the main person of this episode received after signing the first contract with the huge film studio 20th Century Fox. The director approved only the version that Arthur Miller, the darling's most beloved husband, was made up of the name of the talented actress and the maiden name of her mother. The playwright knew very good the type of names that were supposed to be remembered by millions of people of all languages. Let's raise this question. Did her own mother try to kill her? The short answer is maybe yes. It is rumored that Gladys tried to kill Norma several times during her seizures. Yes, the older children were older and quieter, but the younger one yelled, demanding everything that her good-for-nothing and crazy mother could not give her. Let's also say that it's not known whether the law enforcement officers registered an attempted homicide against an infant. Was there any such an attempt at all? We still do not know for sure. However, until the age of 8, Norma stuttered for some reason after one incident. Numerous witnesses were ready to confirm violations in the sight of children in any court, but no one threatened to sue the schizophrenic woman. It's just that her first husband's parents took their 2 grandchildren away from her. That's pretty much it. Let's move on. What happened to Marilyn while her mother suffered from schizophrenia? A minor American woman named Norma had no idea how difficult everything really was in her family. After all, after the trial, she immediately found herself in the rural, idyllic town of Hawthorne, in the family of guardians Albert and Ada Bollender. Her mother lived with them. She was an acquaintance of theirs. But Norma didn't really see her. Until adolescence, she led a life in the open air and subsisted on products from the farm, fields, orchards, and vegetable gardens. As a result, she developed as a rather attractive and outwardly healthy girl. Men's irritating intrusion into her youthful years. But then the mother of the future Marilyn began to bother the Bollenders. Her schizophrenia was revealed in all its splendidness. The couple reported where it is needed. The state freed the generous poor evangelicals from the society of the Mad Gladys, and her daughter was placed in 2 more families, and in between, she even had to live in a shelter for a while. In the family of a certain Olivia, curious men came to look at the girl, enjoying her forms. And in the family of a certain Grace, she was very dirtily molested by Grace's husband. And because of the eternal wandering in strangers' hands, and from such glances and sweaty male hands on her own body, Norma began to withdraw more into herself. She didn't like the public at all. Why 17-year-old Marilyn was given in marriage to a neighbor? But it's not all one-sided. On the other hand, she loved James Doherty. He was older, he was already a high school graduate. Then this man is the only decent person in her universe, as well as the last guardians. Norma is used to communicating with grown men. Of course, she couldn't start a relationship with someone of the same age. Her peers seemed like children to her. At the time of her 16th birthday, our main person in this story lived in the family of another guardian, the Goddards. Her husband was transferred to West Virginia, but California did not allow foster families to take underage children out of the state. In order not to rattle to the shelter again, Norma married her beloved guy exactly when she turned 17, as it should be for a wedding in this state. Why she was frightened of public speaking. By the time she turned 17, everyone in this part of California already knew that she could hold herself beautifully in the frame, sing, and even play some kind of scene. School circles were a test of this. But she was still a long way from creating on a professional scale. Her husband was to serve in the Navy, and his wife was to work at the radioplane company, Aircraft Factory. At that time, a photographer was taking photographs of female workers for propaganda posters. He even paid them some small amount. The man could barely persuade Norma to pose. After all, she was terribly afraid of getting into the eyes of people, being very unsure of herself. It appears that the psyche was imprinted by the fact that she had to be liked by more and more new guardians, constantly pretending to be someone extremely pleasing, so as not to end up in the hated orphanage again. Now, when she had a legal husband and a good job, she even disliked the very attempts to please someone, to show off somewhere in public. Simply disgusting idea for her. The picture was spotted by the Blue Book modeling agency. 19-year-old Norma was invited to work as a model. Under the guidance of photographer André Didier, she began to gain popularity not only in California, but throughout the western United States. Then there was work for a whopping 33 magazines. The owner of Blue Book realized that all these shy movements of the hesitant Norma should become her main feature. Such an idea has not yet been exploited anywhere in the US. It was a triumph because the beautiful woman did not miss a single photo shoot. As you have understood, being essentially an orphan, she gratefully accepted everything that was given to her. Then songs, commercials in movies, and even roles in feature films. In 1947, the whole country knew her, and by 1950, the entire world. Why she was haunted by insomnia for almost all of her life. The first cause of deprived sleep was anxiety about the next task assigned to her. She was still nervous. At that time, many of the inventions known to us had not yet been introduced in psychotherapy, and they should have left traces of the tragedy with divorces and new weddings. Essentially, after the Navy sailor James Dougherty, the famous baseball player Joe DiMaggio, and the playwright Arthur Miller, the main love of her life, were officially married to her. And her lovers were popular actors, a singer, a billionaire, and president. Because of some breakups, the most famous model of the West even tried to kill herself twice. But the primary cause of insomnia lay elsewhere. She was afraid to die in her sleep. Well, why? What sickness prevented Marilyn from getting pregnant? It was because of the illness that made her afraid to die at any moment that Marilyn could not become a mother. Endometriosis is a decently serious condition in which cells similar to the endometrium, the inner layer of the uterus, grow outside of their native layer. To put it simply, the woman was in danger of a special form of cancer that she thought would kill her in a split second. Was there an affair with one of the Kennedy brothers? And what is the most baffling thing about it? In terms of its status, of all Monroe's mysteries, this one is the most central. But the fact of the matter is that there is no mystery here. She indeed had an affair with John F. Kennedy. But against the background of other novels, it did not differ in brightness. They met at one more all-star party which took place at the end of 1951, where some of those whom conspiracy theorists would call the backstage both then and today gathered. Norma just acquired her star name for a year, but John and everyone else knew those two new words. Possibly this romance was a matter of prestige for John. Of course, he's the boyfriend of the same Marilyn Monroe, but Marilyn herself wrote poems in his honor all day long. It's serious, of course. The First Lady of America, Jacqueline Kennedy, of all her husband's mistresses, disliked Marilyn the most. She had to endure this affair, poorly hidden from the public eye, for 6 long years. Again, for 6 years. The unsolved mystery of Marilyn's death in 1962. No one has yet managed to solve the mystery of the mistimed departure of a beautiful, talented, and desirable American woman who became the norm of beauty in the lifting 1950s. However, there are a whole bunch of versions, each of which rests on some supposedly proven factual basis. Did the protagonist of this episode voluntarily take an elephant dose of barbiturates on August 4th, 1962, at her home in the Los Angeles area? Maybe by her own will. The experts did not find any traces of a struggle on the body, or did not want to find it. We've got to underline the imperative. The entire world behind the scenes, one of her ex-husbands or lovers, their relatives, one can speculate unendingly. After all, there are still actresses, models, or even singers who envied her. Many were removed from roles and performances precisely so that the godlike Marilyn would appear in the frame. After all, you can't guess here. But a much more reliable version with suicide is that Monroe, and this is not a secret by the way, fell into unconsciousness by the last years of her life. Bad genetics probably played a role. Terrible psychological traumas, constant sleep deprivation due to the fear of dying or becoming, as in childhood, again, useless person. No matter how hard we try to untwist Marilyn's riddles, they will remain with her inside of the grave. That was Secret Chronicles. Leave a like and subscribe for more episodes. Apart from that, take a look at other episodes we've produced. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.